defending the free market, and making the moral case for capitalism. The Justin Moore Show. Hey everybody, welcome to the Justin Moore Show, where we make sense of what's going on in this crazy, insane, out of control world. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard me talk, the last, ever since I got back from Freedom Fest last July, saying like, I can't wait for the 10th year anniversary of Freedom Fest. That's going to be in Vegas. And really, I haven't thought that much about it. Freedom Fest is coming up in almost exactly a month. So Freedom Fest this year is July 19th through the 22nd. And I haven't been able to think about it. The last 2 years, I'd been a moderator for a panel. Well, this year, because it's been on the back burner for me, as I have so much other things going on, I couldn't, I haven't been able to make it work. So, I'm going to be there, but I'm not going to be moderating a panel. I'll be lucky I don't even know. Hopefully I'll get there when it starts. I still got to work all that stuff out. But it's going to be a great time. I hope you guys come down there. So hopefully this week I can have my bonus episode done where I will talk about some strategies for staying at Freedom Fest, a hotel to stay at, where you can get great deals. You can save a lot of money. So for people who have donated over $50 to my show, or who have clicked on my Tom Woods Liberty Classroom link from my website, justinmooreshow.com, Moore is spelled M-O-H-R. If you click on the Tom Woods and you sign up for his Liberty Classroom, I get a little commission back from that, and with that, I will give you my bonus episodes, so you will learn how to save hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So please do that now before Freedom Fest. I'm serious, guys. If you are like-minded like me, or you're conservative, even if you're liberal, there's all sorts of debates that go on at Freedom Fest. From minarchism to anarchism. There's debates on religion with atheists and Christians. It's such an amazing time. You really don't want to miss it. I can't stress to you guys enough. Whenever you guys hear me talking about something that I really believe in, it's because I don't just say things just to say things. I think there's a lot of people out there that do. It's like, oh yeah, you got to do this and this, and they don't really believe in it. I don't know. I don't do stuff like that. Things I think that benefit my life, I want to share with other people. Like with my bonus episodes where I talk about how to save money, or I'll talk about some credit cards that you should use, or you should consider, I guess is a better way to put it, where you can get cash back, the best cash back out there, that sort of stuff. Because I want you guys to live the best possible life you can. And obviously, the more efficiently you can use your own money, the less you spend on things, lots more money you have for something else. You could take a trip somewhere else, And actually, at my job, as I recently, I picked up that part-time job at the airport. One of the guys I work with, he has a brother who lives in Venezuela, Caracas. And he asked me, he's like, hey, Justin, yeah, because he usually goes to Venezuela like once a month or every few weeks. And he's like, yeah, in June, if you want to come with me, more than happy, you can tag along. So I might consider doing that just because I would never go to Venezuela if it was just me, or, but because just how crazy it is out there. And I've done several episodes talking about, people eating flamingos and anteaters and all that. But if I'm going there with someone who knows the language, who has a brother that lives there, I think that would be one way I would go there. And just to witness a collapse firsthand, that will bring me a unique perspective to this podcast you're not going to hear anywhere else. So I might do that. So I have to work that out if I'm going to, and that sort of thing. But that would be just one of the most enlightening things I probably have ever done in my life. Just to witness that crazy stuff that I read all these news stories on, that I've talked about. Man, that would just be an experience of a lifetime. Assuming I get back and I survive it. Hope I'm not stuck eating anteaters and flamingos. That will not be a good trip. So anyway, guys, I will make this episode a little bit shorter here. There's just so much stuff going on. You got Trump firing Comey, all that backlash. It's just one thing after another. And then Trump's about to unveil his budget proposal, which he's released out in pieces prior to this. But I found a piece here from Robert Samuelson, and I only want to read just a little bit from it. But Robert Samuelson, I want to make this very clear. He's a Keynesian, okay? So him and I don't really agree on much, but still, in his piece, he talks about some things that it's a good way to discuss some important issues here. And he makes a few good points. From 1950 to 2016, the economy grew an average of 3.2% annually, reports the Congressional Budget Office. But growth has dropped to about 2% annually since 2010. Though this 1 percentage point difference in growth rates sounds small, it isn't. In an $18 trillion economy, 1 percentage point of output is worth an extra $180 billion. So remember that number, $180 billion, because I want to bring up some budget items later, and just that can kind of put that in perspective a little bit. And then we continue on, just a couple sentences. In its latest forecast, the CBO projects that the economy will grow at only a 1.8% annual rate from 2017 to 2027. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin has argued that the administration's policies could boost this to 3%, roughly equaling the post-war average. Okay, so obviously a growth rate of 1.8%, that is not very good. And so the question is, why is growth so horrible? Why can't we average the post-World War II average of 3.2%? What the hell's going on? Aren't we more productive? Well, keep this in mind, and especially when I was reading earlier, how we've seen a drop-off in GDP growth since 2010. Obama was sworn into office in 2009. He passed through his stimulus, all of his big spending programs. So think about it, and I've made this point several times on my show, and it's just the Austrian perspective in general, that when the government spends money, then that's now money we don't have to spend, right? So if the government drastically increasing, especially since Obama came to office, which it was really growing massive under Bush in terms of percentage increases, the government is squandering all of our resources. The government, all these stimulus packages that are supposed to create more jobs. We had this little clip from Obama. He starts giggling with his little buddies. Oh yeah, the shovel-ready jobs aren't as shovel-ready as we thought. That sort of stuff? Because the obvious point, you guys know this. The government spends money, that's now money we don't have to spend. So can the government spend money more efficiently than we can as individuals? Obviously, no, they can't. Because the government, they're not looking for an economic return. They don't have a profit and loss. They're not just trying to survive. It's like, oh man, if we don't make it in the black, we're going to go bankrupt. Oh no, not with the government. When the government goes in the red for the year, they look at it and they're like, oh, we just need more tax revenue. We just got to increase taxes. That's it. So that's how the government thinks. It's completely different from a bureaucratic point of view. And so as the government has drastically gotten bigger than it was before, and don't get me wrong, it's been big for a long time. But the rate of increase in the growth of government has only gotten bigger in just the last 16 years at least, especially since George Bush came into office 2001. So yeah, it's 16 years, 17 years now. And no surprise, we've seen GDP growth go down. Now it's averaging about 2%. So, that's a huge drop off from the 3%, which, according to Robert Samuelson here, saying, a 1 percentage difference, that's $180 billion. So, that's a pretty good chunk of change. And then we continue here, just a few more sentences. Crude calculations indicate that attaining 3% economic growth might reduce budget deficits by $3 trillion over a decade. That's a lot of money, even by Washington standards. Still, it's only about a third of the $9 trillion increase in federal debt, the cumulative total of annual budget deficits, estimated over the same decade. The message here is not that economic growth is bad. It is that even using optimistic assumptions, faster growth by itself won't eliminate deficits. The fundamental choice remains. Either we tolerate huge deficits indefinitely, or we decide which taxes to raise and which programs to cut. Okay, so he offers, and it's kind of the point I've made. Well, he wants, Robert Samuelson, from more of the Keynesian perspective, he wants to raise taxes. Me, as a libertarian type, I want to cut the size of government. Because all government spending is a tax. You have to pay for it. Okay, if you inflate the currency away, that's still, inflation is the hidden tax. the most destructive tax out there, is people don't see it coming. Well, most people. The rich are the ones who protect themselves from the inflation tax because they can invest assets appropriately. The poor can't because they're just trying to survive paycheck to paycheck. And as your cost of your little goods that you buy every month, every week goes up and up, that's just more you got to pay. Now you got to take that out of somewhere else in your budget. So what Samuelson's pointing out here is, okay, look, yeah, if we got up to 3% growth, like that would be great. If we could average the post-World War II GDP rate, that 3%, that would reduce the budget deficits by $3 trillion over a decade. But that's still only a third of the $9 trillion that we're going to accumulate over that decade in terms of government spending. So the point is, we can talk about, oh yeah, we just need pro-growth. We need pro-growth policies. You hear so many, conservatives out there. Mostly conservative supply-siders. We just increase tax incentives and cut taxes. We'll be able to grow out of this thing. But the point is, and that's why a lot of these guys are on cloud nine, we're in too much debt. We can't get out of this. We can't grow out of this mess. That's the point. We're in too big of a hole. And just to kind of show you guys the type of hole that we're in, okay, well, right now, our total national debt, it's at $19.9 trillion. So it's almost hitting $20 trillion national debt. We have our GDP every year is 19 trillion. So we have a debt to GDP ratio of 105%. And then if we look at, okay, what does the government bring in terms of revenue every year? We look at the tax revenue. Well, the government brings in $3.3 trillion in tax revenue. That's including your payroll tax. And that's also including income tax. So $3.3 trillion, and then the government has a budget of about $4 trillion a year, which it sounds like Trump's budget proposal is going to be about $4.1 trillion. So you're already spending over $1 trillion of what we're taking in terms of tax receipts. So that's kind of a problem. And so far, our what we've added to the national debt this fiscal year is $592 billion. That's about $500 billion right there. So we look, okay, Justin, yeah, if we really wanted to cut the government, where is all this money coming from? Well, as everybody out there knows, yeah, it's mostly entitlements. Now, most people don't want to cut entitlements. Donald Trump, during the campaign, he didn't want to cut entitlements. He says he wants to leave it alone, which, okay, maybe he was just trying to get elected. But all the things I was saying before he got elected, that he's really not going to cut the size of government, that seems to be true. When everybody out there was so optimistic about a President Donald Trump and that, oh yeah, we're going to bring a businessman to the White House. He's going to run it just like a business, which I've talked about the issues with that and how that doesn't work, especially when the government doesn't operate on a profit loss system like the private sector does. It doesn't work. The businessman no longer has to operate like a businessman. He now operates like a bureaucrat, following things in terms of rules and regulations and abiding by all that. And not looking at, okay, well, what can I do? Especially like a guy like Donald Trump. When he's running his company, he's just going, he's doing anything he can. Okay, he's got to make things work. As president, you can't do that. You have to follow certain rules. So that adds to the problem of already the government operating as a nonprofit. Okay, so now back to, and actually, guys, forgive me if you hear some sounds in the background, like banging. There's like, I don't know what the hell, there's like birds. Yeah, hear that? Those are like birds hitting my window. I don't know what the hell's going on here. Just another crazy day in Montana. Crazy, insane, out of control day in Montana. Now, if you look at the largest budget items out there, so obviously, Medicare, Medicaid, that makes up $1.1 trillion in spending every year. So that's 25% of the budget right there. And Social Security is number 2 on the list. $932 billion spent every year. So that's almost $1 trillion. Defense comes in number 3 at $587 billion. And then you hear me often on this show, I'm talking about, problem with food stamps and all these government programs that assist the poor and all that. All you add up the total cost of all those programs and food stamps, that comes to $301 billion a year. Okay, so that's quite a bit of the budget that's just going towards that. Here's what's almost crazier than that. So as much as we spend on all these little programs to assist the poor, we just have hundreds of these programs out there. And that dang bird. And typically If you qualify for one program, you're on a bunch of other ones. So there's these people, these perpetual, I guess, leeches on society. They just, they know how to work the system. But if we look at the interest on the debt, what are we paying for interest on the debt every single year? And right now, keep in mind, this is still based on ultra low interest rates, still historically low interest rates. Interest on the debt per year is $262 billion. Okay, so that's almost, that's a difference of $61 billion from all the money we spend on these social programs. Do you ever hear this talked about anywhere? So that interest on the debt is based on these low interest rates. So yeah, what does happen when interest rates go to average levels? Say they go to 4 or 5%. What's that interest on the debt going to look like now? Well, it's going to become one of the largest budget items on there. And that's just paying interest on the debt. That is the sort of problem we live in. Now it's just, okay, that was from the government perspective, the government budget, looking at those budget items. What about the average citizen out there? What's the average citizen? What type of debt are they in? Well, if we look at total mortgage debt in the United States, we have total mortgage debt of $14.5 trillion. We have student loan debt of $1.5 trillion. We have the auto loan debt at $1 trillion, which I've talked about that bubble, and that's beginning to pop. I just heard a news story about Ford and GM cutting their workforce. What is it, around 10%? So that bubble has been popped. It's just it's deflating right now. Okay, and if you look at what's the average debt per citizen, the average debt per citizen right now is $56,000. So if we look, and this next crisis comes, people talk about, oh yeah, people have been deleveraging, they're getting out of debt. Really? The average debt per citizen right now is $56,000. We are in debt, not just as a government, but as individuals. And so it seems most people out there, they still have their heads in the sand. They don't think things are they don't see this next economic crisis coming like you and I do. And so as long as, hopefully you are not where those average numbers are at, I hope you're not in that massive student loan debt, which a lot of people are. And that is understandable to a certain extent. It's because all the pressure on society today to, oh yeah, you got to go to college. Yep. Okay. Yeah, you're going to go to debt, but you're going to be able to pay it off with your high paying job, which hasn't been the case. That's been a scam. College is a scam. And I've done a podcast episode, for sure one on that, maybe two, issue that is. So I guess on this episode, I'm just pointing out, here is the type of debt situation we're in today in the United States. And the only way out is we need to drastically cut the size of government. It's got to be meaningfully cut. And the politicians, there isn't the will there to do that. And so the argument I have made on this show is easy way out for the politicians is to inflate the debt away. That's what's going to happen. That's why we're going to have a QE4, more money printing, the Fed buying up more mortgage debt, all this stuff that's going to destroy the currency. And that's why we very well can look like what's going on in Venezuela right now. So yeah, if I do make that trip to Venezuela, I'll let you guys know. I probably will have to miss an episode to do that. I don't know, probably be there a few days. So I'm still working out the details there if I should do that or not. But that would just be the most amazing experience. Assuming I survive it. I couldn't imagine seeing that firsthand. Just destruction of a currency. I really think that would add a lot of value to my show as well. So guys, that is all I have for you today. You can catch up on old episodes by going to my website, justinmoreshow.com. More is spelled M-O-H-R. Click on my little Amazon widget there, buy your goods through there. I get a small commission back. It costs you nothing extra. Join Tom Wood's Liberty Classroom. Amazing way to learn things you need to know if you want to, take on people in arguments in terms of, history, economics, and just understand it better for yourself. Figure out, how does the world really work? Understand the real history you weren't taught in college and high school. It is all there at Tom Wood's Liberty Classroom. So click on my link there. And man, the best thing we can do to prepare for this crisis is to improve our skills and just improve our understanding of things. And we'll be able to basically, it's like playing chess, make the right moves at the right times to essentially will come out ahead, while other people don't know what the hell's going on and will get destroyed by what's coming. So guys, I thank you for being here. I will talk with all you guys next week, and I'm looking forward to it. This is Justin Moore, signing off.